Hello, everyone. So I have the honor of being the last presentation of the last day of the show. So hope it's not too late for you, and thanks for staying here for so late. So I'll give you a little bit about my view of AR and VR market, and a little bit about what we think needs to be done in the future in order to hit more of a mass market versus what we see today. So just a quick introduction to who we are, in case you're not familiar with CEVA. So the company is basically, our expertise is licensing IP for a signal processing for the low power embedded devices. So as a general term, so today our customers or the companies that are making SoCs who license the technology from us today are shipping at an average rate of about 1 billion devices annually. So obviously a lot of this is coming from mobile phones today. And you can see a variety of things that we're doing from short-range wireless, long-range wireless, audio, and vision technology. And I'll touch a little bit about those during the presentation. So if we look at the state of the art today for VR, so the two leading guys, Oculus and HTC Vive, they have a lot of cool technology in here. However, a closer look will show you that they have cables in their devices, and they are connected to PCs where most of the compute is done on the PC. So not very useful for mass production, quite heavy, and of course adds a lot of cost to the device. So it's not really ready yet for mass production. If we look at the market, what has been done so far for AR. So, in my opinion, the best success so far was the Pokemon Go. And you can look at the bottom line, over $1 billion income to date. And I think it's worthwhile to spend a few minutes and think why this happened. And in my opinion, it goes to three main factors. First of all, the application was really catchy and quite simple to use by anyone. My 60-year-old is playing it without any problems. No cables for the device, very easy to use. All the processing is done on the device. And it's available to everyone, basically anyone who has a mobile phone, which essentially is all of us today. It's not perfect. So if you guys like me last summer found yourself suddenly walking around in the streets, very quickly I had to bring a few battery packs because the application was quite heavy and really finished the battery quickly. But it is useful. So it had limitations, the battery life, as well as the AR was really basic. But I think it's worthwhile to look at it and think what went well there and how we can learn from that going forward. So if you look at the AR and VR market, you need to think what is limiting us from getting to mass production. So a few points I would like to look at, and following the previous two presentations, not necessarily talking about glasses, could be glasses, but could be also other devices. I think the main point that if we look at these markets is we have a chicken and egg problem, meaning the devices today have some interesting technology, however the prices are high, and this leads to a relatively low volume. Ideally, we want to be in a situation where we have high volume and then we can ramp up all the technology into very small form factor, very nice technology, and get a low price. However, we're not there yet. So in order to break the chicken and egg, what we can think about doing is utilize products that are already in the market, already in mass production. And of course, this is mobile market. So this is why the Pokemon Go example comes into sense. Start adding more and more functionality for AR, get the technology out there, get it more mature, and this way we can get to the high volumes also in other markets, as well as possibly wearable glasses and other devices. Another form factor to look at is, of course, user friendliness. So we need to take away the cords. We need to do more processing on the device itself to lower the information sent to PCs or to mobile phones or to other devices. We should also work on extending the battery life. So this is very important. We cannot have us all the time connected to get the power. So probably the basic thing for any device is at least 1 day, probably more. Then we need to have ability for the user to interact with the device, and maybe multiple modalities is a good way to go. So we want to be able to use gestures, possibly eye tracking, maybe using the voice to activate the device or to give simple commands, and using touch. Multiple modalities is good because different devices, different scenarios might need different ones, and not all of them fit all the devices that will come out, of course. And very important is to have ability to generate a lot of features and a lot of content for the different devices that will come out. And for that, we need to have, of course, a strong developer community, and we need to develop tools for this community to get to be able to get their features out quickly and to give them enough processing power that they can utilize their new applications. So all of them together probably are not all of what we need to get to mass production, but a lot of, if we improve all of these, it will be much easier to get there. So if we look at the state of the art today for AR, we have the Microsoft HoloLens, and of course the price is very far from consumer. The weight is still quite heavy, so it's quite a clumsy device yet. Battery life is too short, and field of view is still limited. Yes, it won the best award, but it will not go to a consumer, and even mass production is doubtful. So what we need to do, I know this could be a while away, but we need to get devices that are much more friendly in pricing, much lighter, battery life, as I mentioned, from 1 day to multiple days, and we need to have a wide field of view to be able to utilize a good vision technology and good functionality. So if we look a little closer at the technology for AR, and we think about humans, so when we look at the scene, what we do is basically, first we look at the scene and understand the objects and see how the objects are related to one another within the scene. Secondly, we understand for each object what is the size and how far it is from us. And finally, we identify the objects. So if we want computers to be able to do a similar functionality, they need to support these 3 pillars of AR. And similarly, we need the computer to understand how the objects are related in space. This is typically done by simultaneous localization and mapping, SLAM. We need the computer to understand the size and where the objects are in the distance from one another, and this is done by technology that is called depth map, and there are different sensors that can enable generating a depth map together with some algorithm capabilities. And finally, we need to understand what are the objects, and this today is done more and more with deep neural networks, which are proven to be the highest quality, and they understand the objects and also track them and detect them. So what is CEVA Supply in all of this scenario? So first of all, we supply processors which are dedicated for a specific functionality. So for example, processors for computer vision or neural network, or processors for audio. And this way, because they're dedicated for those functions, they will utilize much lower power and enable to extend the battery life of devices. We enable basically short-range wireless as well as long-range wireless. So we enable to cut the cords to run the processing on the device, and of course lower the streaming data that is needed to complementary devices. We enable the ecosystem to develop a lot of new features and content by supplying processors that are programmable. They are very powerful, so you can run multiple use cases, multiple modalities in parallel. And we also work quite hard on enabling toolkits and also partner ecosystem that supply those applications that are available and really shorten the time to market for adding new feature set. And finally, we work very hard, and this is our expertise. The IPs that we develop are very low size, low cost, so we enable the end devices to be a fraction of what they are today. So as an example, our customers typically ship chips with our technology from a few tens of cents to a few tens of dollars. So that's a typical output of the technology. So one example just about the toolkit. So we have developed a toolkit specifically for developing neural network and taking those into production with devices. So this technology came out already 2 years ago, and we have quite a few partners and customers using it, and it's starting to come into the market these days. So what we do is basically we enable guys who develop neural network. Typically, they're doing a training of the networks, improving the network and building them offline in tools such as Caffe and TensorFlow. And our tool basically bolsters onto industry open source frameworks such as Caffe and TensorFlow. And automatically, by push-button technology, we take these and we port them to the embedded device and run them on the edge, on the device itself, on the mobile phone or the AR/VR device. So this is done by push-button technology. We take technology that was developed for research, trained, and so on, and we bring it into the consumer electronic. It runs on our processors, optimized, and in very low power, enable mass production. So this is just one example of what we do, and we do many others. So to summarize, where are we today in terms of AR and VR market? So we're still at the starting point, like the whole industry. You know, most of our 1 billion annual devices are not coming yet from AR VR market, but we have a few success stories. So we have a few SoC partners like Rockchip and Intuitive who are starting to ship these days different devices such as 360 cameras, such as glasses, such as remote controls, accessories, and so on. And we're really looking for partners in the different areas. So partners, silicon vendor partners, OEM partners, algorithm partners that will help us develop and ship the next technology in the coming years. So that's all, and thanks for staying so late, and hope you had a good show.